My name is Nishat Noor and welcome to Millennium Headlines. This week's top headlines are: Southern California's Blue Cut fire fully contained. EpiPen steady price increases maxed until deductibles rose. Turkey unsure if wedding party bomber a child or a grown-up. Japan's First Lady pays tribute at Pearl Harbor. Thousands dead in Philippines' war on drugs. President Obama's weekly address. Now the details to this week's top headlines. The fast-moving Blue Cut fire, which scorched more than 56 square miles in the San Bernardino National Forest, has been fully contained a week after it was sparked, authorities say. The U.S. Forest Service announced Tuesday morning that all evacuations have been lifted and all major roads are open, save for a small number of dirt roads in the area. Crews are still patrolling for hot spots within the perimeter of the fire, which wiped out 105 homes and 216 outbuildings since it broke out in the San Bernardino Mountains, west of Interstate 15. Fire officials were initially concerned about fatalities since a large number of people refused to evacuate. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department used cadaver dogs to search the burned area as a precaution. On Tuesday, Sheriff's spokeswoman Jody Miller said there were no reports of fatalities. She added the cause of the Blue Cut fire is still under investigation. The fire was first reported about 10 a.m. August 16th along Cajon Boulevard. Near Blue Cut, flames grew out of control along Interstate 15 in the Cajon Pass, and the blaze grew to more than 39 square miles the next day. Miles of land were charred on both sides of the freeway, and a number of communities were threatened. Among destroyed buildings was the historic Summit Inn, a roadside restaurant that served travelers for decades. Also destroyed was the adjacent home of the restaurant's managers. They escaped with clothes, pictures, and documents. Last week, they said they would be fine. Everything will work out. It always does, co-manager Michelle Keeney said. A wildfire on California's Central Coast grew to nearly 58 square miles Tuesday. Elsewhere in California, at least 2,400 people remained under evacuation orders in San Luis Obispo and Monterey counties, where a stubborn blaze that has destroyed at least 36 residents grew to nearly 58 square miles Tuesday. Hearst Castle, the palatial Ocean View estate popular among tourists, remained closed because of its proximity of the flames. And just north of Big Star, California's largest fire grew held steady at 135 square miles in rugged wilderness coast along Highway 1. More than 400 homes remain threatened by the fire. The maker of the life-saving allergy shot EpiPen is the new poster child for exorbitant drug price increases, as high-profile members of Congress, doctors, and consumers lash out over huge price increases since 2009. Milan's EpiPen are used to quickly treat the severe allergic reaction known as anaphylaxis, which can include swelling of the tongue or throat, shortness of breath, and a rush.
It's a life-saving drug for patients with potentially deadly allergies. 43 million Americans keep an EpiPen close at hand. Among them, 9-year-old Joshua Fernandez are allergic to nuts. But since 2008, the price pharmacies pay for an EpiPen 2-pack has shot up from $100 to $600, and the pens must be replaced yearly.
I have to protect and provide life-saving medication for my child, and at the current trend, I worry How are we going to pay for this in the future?
To afford it, Amy Fernandez now gets her EpiPens from a pharmacy that orders them from Canada for a third of the price. Meanwhile, in Congress, a bipartisan demand for the Federal Trade Commission to investigate.
I consider it gouging because what happened here is they now control, by some estimates, 85% of this market.
The company that makes the EpiPen, Mylan Pharmaceuticals, tells NBC News the price change better reflects important product features and the value the product provides. And it offers coupons to help customers with high insurance deductibles that don't cover the price. But Mylan isn't commenting about executive compensation. While raising EpiPen prices by more than 400%, top company executives saw their total compensation jump by more than 600%. There is an alternative for patients, though in an emergency, it's not ideal.
The medicine itself is not the expensive part. It's cheap. It's the auto-injector part of the EpiPen that's expensive. You can learn to do it yourself with a syringe, but you have to know how to do it correctly.
You have to actually get your physician to write a prescription for the AdrenaClick because it can't be substituted for the EpiPen because the technology is different.
Tonight, yet another major drug company under fire for hiking prices and profits.
Turkish officials are backtracking on an earlier statement that the suicide bomber who attacked the wedding ceremony was a child. The prime minister says authorities are still trying to determine who carried out the attack, which killed at least 54 people, saying authorities don't know if the perpetrator was a child or a grown-up. Speaking after a cabinet meeting on Monday, Premier Binali Yildirim said a clue hasn't yet been found concerning the perpetrator of the attack. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had announced Sunday that the bomber was aged between 12 and 14.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Nasıl patlama olur olmaz balkona çıktım, duman yukarı çıkıyordu. Hemen koştum üzerine varır varmaz baktım hepsi daha üst üste böyle yıkılmıştı. Daha hiç kimse yoktu. Bir 10-15 kişi vardı, o da bizimki herhalde çevreden gelenlerdi. Sağ olanlar hepsi şoktaydı, bağırıyordu. Ölenler, yaralılarla zaten hepsi üst üste yıkılmıştı.
Bombanın patlamasıyla birlikte biz oraya koştuk. Koştuğumuzda işte gittiğimizde de yaralılar arabalarla kendi sivil vatandaşların imkanlarıyla arabalarla yaralıları şeye götürdüler, hastanelere götürdüler. Geride kalan cesetlerle biz uğraştık. Cesetlerin daha yaşayan olup olmadıklarına bakıyorduk.
Japan's First Lady made a surprise trip to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii to pay tribute to those who died there, fueling speculation that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe could also visit the historic site attacked by the Japanese 75 years ago. Aki Abe said Monday that she laid flowers and prayed at the USS Arizona Memorial during her private trip on Sunday. She also posed with an American veteran who survived the December 7, 1941 attack, which prompted the U.S. to declare war on Japan and enter World War II. Aki Abe was in Hawaii to attend an environmental conference, Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said, according to the Japanese Times. Speculation on whether the Prime Minister will also visit Pearl Harbor on this year's anniversary increased after President Obama visited Hiroshima, Japan, in May to pay tribute to the victims of the U.S. atomic bombing there, Japan Times reported. Although the White House has said it would welcome to visit by Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister said in May there were no plans to make the trip. He would be the first serving Japanese Prime Minister to visit Pearl Harbor. Aki Abe said after her trip, "I offered my condolences to the victims and gave my prayer of gratitude for the peace that we have enjoyed and to establish the peace going forward." The First Lady visited the site at 7:55 a.m. the time of the surprise Japanese attack, the online news service Gendai, its media reported. I understand that there are various debates and stances on Pearl Harbor, but I think that we have to pass on the memory of the next generation, transcending the feelings of the hate and anger, she told the news service in an interview according to Japanese Times. Drug-related killings have reached a new high in the Philippines since their president declared war on drugs.
Around 1,800 people in the Philippines have died over just 7 weeks in a massive war on drugs initiated by the country's new president, Rodrigo Duterte. Duterte, elected in May on a campaign promising to eliminate drug crimes through violence, at one point even advocated vigilante killing of drug dealers. National Police Chief Ronald De La Rosa testified this week that 712 drug traffickers and users have been killed, but another 1,067 other drug-related killings are still being investigated. The United Nations has taken issue with the surge in violence, and the United States government says it is deeply concerned. Duterte has responded by saying he doesn't care about human rights and threatened to declare martial law and even leave the UN if they interfere with his war on drugs.
In his weekly message, President Obama commemorated the centennial of the national parks and proposed that all of us participate in It's Your Park. Today, military families can have access to all national parks free through an initiative joining forces, and families with a 4th grade child may obtain a free pass by visiting everykidinapark.org. The president made emphasis in his commitment based in the tradition of conservation of the United States taking it as its path of protection of more lands and waters than any other administration. With the threat of climate change, the president said that the protection of our lands and public waters is more important than ever. In the next couple of years, we must do what we can to continue protecting our parks and protect our planet for the next generations.
Hi, everybody. Earlier this summer, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, and I headed west to the national parks at Carlsbad Caverns and Yosemite. And I've got to say, it was a breath of fresh air. We explored hundreds of feet of underground, standing beneath dripping stalactites in New Mexico. We hiked up a misty trail next to a waterfall in California. And I even took a few pictures of my own, which I thought were pretty good. But the truth is, no camera, especially one with me behind it, can fully capture the beauty and majesty of America's national parks. From Glacier and Denali to Gettysburg and Seneca Falls, our more than 400 parks and other sites capture our history and our sense of wonder. As FDR once said, there is nothing so American as our national parks. The fundamental idea behind the parks is that the country belongs to the people. This month, we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. And I want to encourage all of you to find your park so that you and your family can experience these sacred places too. If you're a military family, you can even get in free through Michelle and Joe Biden's Joining Forces initiative. And if you've got a 4th grader in your family, you can get a free pass too by going to everykidinapark.org. I hope you do, because all across the country, the National Park Service is preparing for a big year. We're revitalizing a grove of giant sequoias in Yosemite, repairing the Lincoln Memorial, and enhancing the iconic entrance to our first national park at Yellowstone. As president, I'm proud to have built upon America's tradition of conservation. We've protected more than 265 million acres of public lands and waters, more than any administration in history. We've recovered endangered wildlife species and restored vulnerable ecosystems. We've designated new monuments to Cesar Chavez in California and Pullman Porters in Chicago, and the folks who stood up for equality at Stonewall in New York, to better reflect the full history of our nation. And we've got more work to do to preserve our lands, culture, and history. So we're not done yet. As we look ahead, the threat of climate change means that protecting our public lands and waters is more important than ever. Rising temperatures could mean no more glaciers in Glacier National Park, no more Joshua trees in Joshua Tree National Park. Rising seas could destroy vital ecosystems in the Everglades, even threaten Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. So, in the coming years and decades, we have to have the foresight and the faith in our future to do what it takes to protect our parks and protect our planet for generations to come. Because these parks belong to all of us, and they're worth celebrating, not just this year, but every year. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and see you in the parks.
Southern California's Blue Cut Fire fully contained. EpiPen steady price increases maxed until deductibles rose. Turkey unsure if wedding party bomber a child or a grown-up. Japan's First Lady pays tribute at Pearl Harbor. Thousands dead in Philippines' war on drugs. President Obama's weekly address. Thank you for watching Millennium Headlines. This has been Nishat Noor. See you next week.